Good evening and welcome to our July 1st, 2014 Ogden City Council meeting. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present with the exceptions of Vice Chair Gochner, who is asked to be excused. And if we could all stand and if you'd repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and if you could join us for a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, well, the first item on our agenda is a recognition about the Newgate Mall. We've asked Councilmember Blair if he would present that.
Yes, thank you, Chair Heyer. This is a joint resolution of the Ogden City Council and Mayor, number 2014-10, recognizing the Newgate Mall for providing significant contributions to our local schools and the Ogden community. Whereas the Newgate Mall first opened its doors to the Ogden community in 1981, it houses various top brand companies and vendors and provides more than 80 stores and services. For more than 30 years, the mall has shown commitment to our community through hosting and participating in numerous charitable efforts, including Toys for Tots and Buy for Charity. And whereas the mall has also been involved in the My Schools Cool fundraising effort. This community program is committed to building relationships with area schools through providing cash rewards for shopping at Newgate Mall. Participating students and faculty earn points by shopping at the mall and submitting receipts to their schools. And whereas schools began earning points in May 2013 for shopping and dining at the mall. Points were also awarded for creative My Schools Cool program promotional ideas. These points were later turned into cash donations from the mall for the highest accumulation of points per student. Over 12 months, the program was promoted at local parades, volunteer days, and local competitions in the mall and throughout the community. And whereas this year, participation included 11 junior and senior high schools, incorporating both the Ogden and Weber school districts. Newgate Mall representatives awarded monies to the top 8 participating schools with the largest overall points totals, with 2 grand prize winners receiving $12,000. Representatives from Newgate Mall attended PEP assemblies at the winning schools and awarded a total of $68,000 to the schools who collected the most points. And whereas Newgate Mall's My Schools Cool program began in 2010 with 6 schools participating and $20,000 in prize money, the total cash awarded over the past 4 years is $200,000. With the program continuing to grow each year. This program provides a positive opportunity for students to become involved in supporting their schools while also encouraging students to shop locally and contribute to our local economy. Now therefore be it resolved that the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell proudly recognize Newgate Mall for its generous contributions to our local schools and the entire Ogden community. We appreciate the efforts of the mall to enhance local educational opportunities and to help provide a positive environment for our residents to live, work, learn, and play. And with that, I would make a motion that we adopt Joint Resolution 2014-10.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Blair, seconded by Councilmember Stevens, to adopt this joint resolution. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes.
And I believe Brent Parkin is here to accept this award. And so with that, I'd like to...
Afterwards, we'll shake all your hands.
you.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you. If you want to say a few words, we can.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Have you got some words to say to us?
Sure. Thank you for the recognition. We really appreciate it. The company that owns Newgate Mall is out of Chicago, and sometimes the corporate gets kind of distant from the community, but we've always tried to focus our efforts locally. And I've been affiliated with Newgate Mall for over 26 years now, and this is my hometown, so I definitely have a commitment to Ogden and to local schools. And I believe almost all of our staff actually is graduated from local Ogden and Weber School District schools. And so it's been very exciting for us to be able to give back to schools and also to support the people who support us. And we know the importance, as well as you know, the importance of shopping locally, and that people have a lot of choices in shopping, and there's some that are just over our borders. So we like to keep the money locally and support our local merchants. So thank you for this recognition.
Thank you, Brent. That was, appreciate you being in town.
And thanks for being here.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is our common consent portion. It's a budget amendment concerning the Trackline Economic Development Area.
Chair Heyer, I'll propose that we adopt ordinance 2014-32 to set the public hearing for July 29th, 2014.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Garner, seconded by Councilmember White, to set the public hearing for July 29th. This is a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, the next item is our public hearing. First item is budget reappropriation for public art. And we have a presentation by
Christy McBride will be making the presentation.
Good evening, Council Chair and members of the council. I recommend the approval of the reappropriation of $50,000 of the pooled percent for arts money to use for 3 separate art projects, installations in the Central Business District. The first being the placement of 30 colorful overhead kite sculptures on Kiesel Avenue between 24th and 25th Street. The second is the installation of Horses in Haiku, a poetry celebrating Ogden, written by locals. This will be installed on pole signs on 23rd Street between Wall and Grant Avenue. The third project is the installation of interactive musical sculptures in conjunction with the development of a small pocket park on 25th Street. The Planning Commission reviewed the various elements for this, and they do match our general plan in these 3 pieces, are consistent with the general plan, and each adds pedestrian interest to help the walkability of our downtown area.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. McBride?
How many of the artists are from the Ogden area?
The one on the Pocket Park on 23rd Street is in the Salt Lake area. The second, being the Horses in Haiku, are all Ogdenites. And then the artist that was chosen for that installation is a local Ogden artist as well.
I think it's important to tell how many people responded to the haikus.
I think the number of haikus was over 170. The number of they were allowed to submit 4 to 6, and so there's, I think, about 40.
My favorite was about the mayor, our mayor can beat up your mayor. It's my very favorite.
Yeah, we had a great response on all of it. So.
All right, any other questions? Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing. If you'd like to address the council concerning this item, please come to the podium and give us your name and address. Seeing no movement, can we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Wicks, seconded by Councilmember Garner to close public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
No further discussion. I will go ahead and make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2014-28.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Councilmember Blair, seconded by Councilmember Stevens.
Garner.
Garner. Oh, I just knew it came from that way. Garner. To adopt proposed ordinance 2014-28. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Blair,
Aye.
Councilmember Garner,
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks,
Aye.
Chair Hire.
Aye. And that passes. Next item is item B, annexation community plan amendment and rezone at 450 North Jefferson Avenue.
Mr. Montgomery.
Mr. Montgomery will be presenting.
Chance to focus. There we go. Well, no, not yet. Well, while we work on this, I'll go ahead and explain. You have 3 separate items you'll be considering tonight, all in conjunction with one area of the city. We received a petition a few months back to annex property, which is an unincorporated island in Ogden City. This property, as you can hazily see, is just located to the north of North Street and on the east side of Jefferson Avenue. It's 1.7 acres, and it has been an unincorporated island since the city developed in that area in the early 60s. This piece has always been left in the county as pasture land, and now the development is desired, so annexation has been petitioned. In looking at considering annexations, one of the things you look at is, can we provide services to this property? Of course, since Ogden City surrounds all 4 sides of it, we are the only people who can provide services to the land, and therefore it's consistent. It's also consistent with our general plan in terms of areas we can annex and have defined years ago in our annexation declaration. And so, again, this is consistent. As the Planning Commission looked at this then, they looked at what's the appropriate zoning. This led then to the next question, which is the second part of your consideration of what is the zoning, because this property is only a portion of a larger piece of property that is owned by the same people. So as you see in this lower part along North Street, these are the same property owners who have property in Ogden City, which also have the property in that incorporated county. The proposed development for this area is assisted living. The Mount Lewis Community Plan talked about this area being generally single-family or R2 zoning. Assisted living is first allowed in R3. So in order to consider what the developer wanted to have happen here, a plan amendment was also needed to the Mount Lewis Community Plan. So the Planning Commission then held a public hearing to consider amending the Mount Lewis Community Plan. In that, the Commission discussed several items. They discussed the fact that there's been a changing nature of development along North Street, that while this serves as the edge to the neighborhood, across the street to the south is the ATC. You've got a future fire station just going in down the street on North Street. You've had Lowe's develop on this corner. The plan talks about potential commercial on the other corner. And with these changes going on, and the fact that this property has some unique features to it, the Commission felt it would be appropriate to look at amending the plan to look at R3 as only a conditional overlay, meaning not all R3 uses would be appropriate here, but the use being proposed could be appropriate if it had the conditional overlay zone. So as they discussed that fact, and they discussed the changing nature along North Street, they felt an amendment to the plan was appropriate. So their recommendation to you on this is to amend the Mount Lewis Community Plan to give an R3 conditional overlay option for this area of the plan. So step 1 is annexation. Step 2 is then what would be the appropriate zoning, and to consider that zoning as an amendment to the community plan. Step 3 then becomes the actual rezoning of the property. Now, as I mentioned, the annexation of the property was only a portion of what is in the ownership of the developer. The site itself has a dividing line right here of a wetland area. And so as the Planning Commission considered then what is the appropriate zoning, that wetland becomes a demarcation between R3 conditional overlay zoning and R16 zoning to the north of that wetland area. So as you can see on this photo, another consideration tonight is to rezone from R2 to R3CO the present property that is in Ogden City, a portion of the property being annexed into the city to that R3CO, and then giving the remainder of the property being annexed into the city an R16 zoning designation. Now, with the conditional overlay zoning, that also includes a development agreement. So that is part of that third step of the rezoning. The development agreement basically outlines that, but for these conditions, the R3 zoning would not be appropriate. And so as you consider this section of rezoning, that development agreement comes along with it. The development agreement tried to get to the points the commission felt would be appropriate to make this compatible with the area. You do have single-family homes on this side of Jefferson Avenue. You've got PUD development to this side of the property. Of course, as I mentioned, the ATC to the south and the wetlands here. So the aim of the development agreement is to try to keep a residential design to the building that is being proposed, to put a limit of 52 assisted living units in the facility, and then specify design standards in terms of sloped roofs, building materials for the exterior of the structure, parking locations, and those type of items of screening parking lots, of screening views, of having variations in the building lines, as I said, along with the pitched roof. So the development agreement then talks about those type of things that would be necessary to make this use appropriate at this location. So as you're looking at this item tonight, as I mentioned, there are 3 different things you're really looking at. Step 1 is annexation. Step 2 is the community plan amendment, which would then allow the proposed zoning, which is the third step, to take place. Without the plan amendment, R3 zoning would be inconsistent with the community plan. And then if it's inconsistent with the community plan, then the assisted living facility would also not be allowed in that area. So the Planning Commission's recommendations to you are annexation is appropriate in this area. This is something the city can service, and it should be annexed in the city, as we are the only ones who can provide service. Step 2, that it is appropriate to amend the Mount Lewis Community Plan to have an R3CO condition on this area, and that recommendation is that be approved. And then step 3, that the rezoning of the front portion of the property to R3CO and the rear portion of the property to R16 is also appropriate, and the accompanying development agreement is also consistent then to provide the standards needed to make this use compatible in this location. And so that's their recommendation to you on those items.
Any questions for Mr. Montgomery?
On the development agreement, is it a single level or can they?
It is a single story, yes.
So it can't go to a 2-story level?
Correct.
Okay.
Questions? I have one concerning how many zones can these type of facilities go into?
R3, R4, R5, commercial zone. So you have a PI zone also as an option.
Did the Planning Commission by chance look at just recategorizing the zones to allow this in a lower zone?
No, they didn't. Part of the reason is, again, we have a series of things all tied together with assisted living, rehab treatment centers, homes for the disabled. They're all kind of fall into different categories, and they all have their different levels of where they're allowed. And if we start messing with one, then it starts messing with all of them. And so the commission felt it was just better to leave our ordinance the way it is and have the zone reflect this use. Because, again, with a conditional overlay, it limits that
Right.
this is the appropriate location for this type of
Right.
facility.
Yeah, I can understand that the conditional overlay is a good tool. It just, I can see a lot more of them coming, and to have to look at every one of them might be tedious in the future.
Well, and we do have certain separation requirements of facilities too, and so those are other portions of the ordinance that exist now. I think to help, scatter it around throughout the community rather than concentrate into one area.
Okay, well, thank you. I think that's it. This is a public hearing. If you have comments about this item, could you please come forward and give us your name and address?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we do actually have the petitioner here, I believe. And
We do.
invite him to speak first.
Okay, let's listen to the petitioner.
Sorry about my car. I just got off work right now. I'm trying to get cleaned up. No disrespect to the court.
Please step in front of the microphone. Right.
Over to your,
Public safety. I have a public safety issue. I live out in West Weaver, 3857 West 400 South, and
Could you give us your name also?
Kent Hipwell.
Okay, thank you.
It's a real bad situation almost happened the other day that shook me up pretty bad. I'm all about people wanting to get healthy and go out and walk and that. Well, I live on a block where there's a lot of women, children, strollers, a lot of strollers, and it happens all the time. I'm out there, I'm helping my dad, I help do my dad's farm still too, and well, the kids, they always half go to one side of the road, half go to the other, and mother's over there telling them to stay or come or whatever, and well, two got stuck on one side, and her other daughter was over on this side, and I'm just creeping by this time, just trying to watch all of them. Well, I looked back one last time, I had a swather behind me on the tractor, and I just see the top of his little head dart. He must not have seen the swather back that long tongue, Well, if I wouldn't looked that last time, I'd have went right over that kid. It shook me up pretty bad. And there's one day I counted 35 people that walk around this block just for, exercise and that, and that's great. But back 30 years ago, 50 years ago, when we used to walk to school because we lived within 1 mile West Weaver Elementary, and we walked to school. That was, if you lived within a mile, you had to walk. Well, I wouldn't send my kid down that road. There's way too much traffic nowadays. I mean, and all these kids coming from Fremont, they're all trying to get away from the big traffic jam on 4700 when they all get out of school. I mean, it'll be 2 miles long, so they all come up our road early, go clear around our block, and just to beat this big, get away from this long traffic jam. And a lot of them drive a little fast, and it's going to happen. One of these kids is going to get hurt or worse. Because there's a lot of them that walk around, little families, whole little families. I knew after that the other day, if I didn't at least try to do something, one of these kids got killed. I'm sorry. It shook me up pretty bad. They need to give them somewhere to walk that's safe, not on our roads anymore. There's too much traffic. And, used to be that's the only way, it's a narrow, no painted lines on the road. It's narrow for 2 lanes, as it is. And it's just not safe for them to have these families out there walking down anymore. There's way too much traffic. I don't know how to go about changing it, but give them somewhere to walk and just tell them it ain't safe out there no more. I really can't believe that these women have their little kids out there more or less playing in the street. I mean, there was 4 cars behind me waiting when I passed that day, If I wouldn't hit the skids right when I did, that kid, he wouldn't have made it. He went right under it. And that happens all the time. I already stopped for 3 groups of them, just creeped through 3 groups of them before I got to this one. And then that happened. I had to go sit in the field and just think about it. It shook me up, and I don't think drivers ought to be...
time.
Yeah, do you have any comments about your project, or?
This is the petitioner.
I don't know if I got up the wrong time. This
Oh,
is
you maybe
public
did.
safety.
I
is a
thought
public
this was
safety
the-
issue.
And so it sounds to me like you probably are outside Ogden city
This is
limits.
West Weaver.
Yeah, so this is the Ogden City Council meeting.
I understand that.
And
In city.
so the Weber County Commission meets on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock.
I'm in the
Or
wrong
sorry,
place.
Mondays
I
at 10
apologize.
o'clock. Sorry.
But
I'm sorry.
thank you.
It is Tuesday at 10 o'clock. I think they have their
Tuesday at
meeting.
10.
Tuesday at 10.
Okay, well, we are looking for the petitioner.
Boswell.
Okay. Well, we'll go into the public hearing portion of this. Is there anyone that would like to comment about this annexation or community plan amendment? Okay, seeing none.
Seems there's no movement. I'll move that we close the public hearing regarding this issue.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Garner, seconded by Councilmember Wicks to close the public hearing. This is a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, these items need to be taken individually, is that correct?
Right.
Okay, so
So with that, I'll make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2014-18 for the annexation.
Second.
okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Garner, seconded by Councilmember Blair for annexation. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Garner,
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks,
Aye.
Chair Hire.
Aye, and that passes. Next
Apologize.
item is the,
Hold on.
Councilmember Blair.
oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, next item is the Mount Lewis Community Plan Amendment. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and adopt proposed ordinance 2014-30.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Blair, seconded by Councilmember Garner to adopt proposed ordinance 2014-30. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks,
Aye.
Councilmember Blair,
Aye.
Councilmember Garner,
Aye.
Chair Hire.
Aye, well, that passes. And on the rezone.
So with that, Chair Hire, I would make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2014-31, amending the zoning map.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Wicks, seconded by Councilmember Garner to adopt ordinance 2014-31. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks,
Aye.
Councilmember Blair,
Aye.
Councilmember Garner,
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Chair Hire.
Aye, and that passes. So that takes, they're going to get going right away, I assume. Okay, great. Next item on the agenda is reports from administration, certified tax rate.
Laurie Johnson will be covering this
From
issue.
Ms. Johnson.
The purpose of this action is to request adoption of Resolution 2014-15 to formally accept the certified tax rate as established by the Utah State Tax Commission. The fiscal year 2014-15 budget did not include an increase in property tax rates. Therefore, the certified tax rate has been calculated at .002618 for general operation purposes and .000749 for the general obligation bond debt service, for a total of .003367. And just to give you a point of reference, last year's total rate was .003415. So it's actually gone down just a little bit, which means our property values are a little bit higher, which is a good thing. And the reason we don't do this with the budget is we don't get the rate until after that budget process has been completed. So once we receive the rate, then we bring it back to the council for formal adoption.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Any questions or resolution?
I'll make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2014-15.
I second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Garner, seconded by Councilmember Stevens to adopt proposed resolution 2014-15. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Wicks,
Aye.
Councilmember Blair,
Aye.
Councilmember Garner,
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Chair Hire.
Aye, that passes. Now it's time for public comment. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding your concerns or ideas. Please state your name and address clearly for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing no movement, Mr. Johnson.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Council members?
I have a question. I know many communities and cities are having fire restrictions because of the fireworks and that. Is there any way that our citizens would get that type of information for our restrictions?
It's been released on press release. It's been in the newspaper. I don't know if it's on our website. I'd have to go look and see if it's on our website.
It
but
is on our website.
we tried to notify all the chiefs or the fire marshals kind of got together in the whole area and released a joint press release about the fire danger in certain areas long before people could go and buy fireworks. So our hope was we'd notify them before they went and bought. But we have restriction east of Harrison and along the river and over to the fort and the old dump grounds. All that area there is all restricted from fireworks.
Thank you.
And also, just thank you to UTA and our administration for working together to have an open house up at Ogden High School. We had several council members and others that were able to attend that, and mostly appreciate the citizen input that we received from that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, just as a point of clarification, item number 10, the closed executive session has been pulled from our agenda tonight. So we are at adjournment.
And I'll make a motion that we adjourn the city council meeting.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Garner, seconded by Councilmember Blair to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? As a reminder, there will be a special redevelopment agency meeting immediately following this, followed by a city council work session, and the items of discussion are listed on the agenda.